In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can animate a light layer after you've created a light layer. So as you can see, back out a little bit, we have our 3D logo, we have our 3D logo spin, we have a 3D layer of a shape layer behind it. So it casts shadows. But as you can see, the light fades in and then fades out. And you can notice also that it slowly or very subtly passes over. Well, just like anything else in After Effects, you can animate that. Meaning that I can create a light and then I can animate its movement across the screen. Now, as I've explained in previous 3D tutorials, I have my resolution set down to a third so that I can move effectively through this and set everything up the way I want it. And then when I think I have it the way I want it, that's when I preview it in full resolution. The more 3D you have, the longer your duration is, the longer it's going to take for it to preview out at full resolution. And also, before we kind of quickly go into animating the light layer, the back wall, particularly with lights, is really important. And they call them walls, but I'll show you. It's basically a solid behind it. So what you would do is, let's go back to our view, is that you would want to create a layer behind it that can reflect the shadows from the light. So you would go to Layer, New, Solid. In this case, I set it to white. White's, most complementary, nice contrast with logos. But you can set it to anything that you want. You just got to take into account that it's in the background, so it shouldn't affect the contrast of what the viewer really needs to see. So in this case, we set it to this very kind of pale gray, because we want them to see this, and this is in the background. It's kind of complementary, pushes this forward. But in the end, it's basically a new solid layer. So you would create layer, new, solid, and then after you've created it, you'll make it a 3D layer, and then you can adjust it so that it's behind everything. And there it is. All right, so let's go back to animating our light source. So let's open up our light. And as you can see, we have a path where the light starts from out here, passes over, and out. What does that look like? Well, we've done a couple of things with our animation here. First thing, of course, is the transformation, the position of it. That you can see that the light starts, moves, and moves past, literally starting on one end, stopping in the middle, which is my second keyframe, and then ending on the other side. And that's how we just do a simple pass of light over. But in this particular case, we had to adjust the light further under its options, because when we pass it over, we don't want the rest of the logo to get dark. We want it to basically light up the whole logo. So you'll see that we adjust it with animations even further so that you can see the light passes over, stops in the middle, and then stops at the end. Now, when you're animating this, you're going to see your light here, and you'll be able to pass it all the way through. However, when it actually renders out, you're going to look at it and you're going to say, well, wait, it's supposed to end over here. Well, it is. It just looks like it ends here because of where the center focus of the light is. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But just to show you that when you animate a light pass, you'll start off the edge where everything is in darkness. And then you're going to want to animate it and put in a keyframe where it hits the center, and then your final keyframe when it reaches out. And as I was saying before, you're going to want to adjust the light so that it doesn't leave your subject matter completely in darkness. It basically slowly illuminates it. And that's done by animating the intensity. So when I open up the light options, I'll see intensity, and it has a little stopwatch so I can create keyframes. So we'll start off the intensity at really low, dark. And then what I want it to look like at the end of the animation is brighter than 100%, but not too bright that it blows everything out. So let's go back to animating an actual light layer. So I'm going to go to Layer, New, Light. We'll stay with our defaults. I already have everything set up as cast my other 3D layers to receive shadows, rather. But you'll see it gives me a point. We open up our light layer, and under transform, all I can transform is its position. I can move it horizontal and vertical. I can move it up or down. And the Z is spinning it, and you're not going to really see much of a difference to it, particularly when it's at the center like this. So if I want this to animate, what I'll do, and if I say I want it to animate where it passes over it, and I'll click on the x-axis, I'll be at the beginning of my animation, and I'll say on my x-axis we're going to move it over. And I may back out a little so that I can really move this over. So it starts off in blackness. So that's where my light's going to start. I'll set a keyframe. Move about halfway through or so, depending on what you want. Down the time frame. And then you see that I can then move it over. There's my keyframe. Then move it down to what I want it to look like at the end. And in this case, I'm going to leave it right about here so it keeps my whole logo animated. And you can see it creates a motion path so that now when it animates out, it comes in dark, slowly fades in to see my logo, and then it stays lit. And then when I'm ready to preview it, I'll change my resolution to full, and then I'll be able to see the whole effect, which I'm not going to do during this tutorial because it would take a long time for it to render and be easier for you to just see it on your own screens. But that's how we animate lights in Adobe After Effects.